The title of Todd Phillips' origin story for DC Comics' greatest superhero's greatest villain is such that it successfully sets up the story the audience is supposed to see, should they choose to pay attention. When Arthur Fleck runs after the punks that literally stole his job and destroy it on his face, he's beaten within an inch of his sanity, and we linger on this already broken protagonist. Joker fills the screen. No echoey stinger noise, no silent boom, no drop shadow, just Joker. Joker is how the film wants you to read it. Not as the Joker, just Joker. It's a subtle word choice, or perhaps lack thereof, but it's still a great distinction. This is not the origin story for the Joker, the definitive backstory for all time and for all other normal Jokers. No, this is simply Joker. The story of how someone, perhaps anyone, becomes that entity of essential evil. That is the underlying question you have brought to the movie prior to seeing it. How does somebody become Joker? What were the reasons? When is the moment where it all snapped? Other stories ask similar questions for their characters. It's a Wonderful Life, for example, introduces us to Jimmy Stewart's greatest performance, not through footage of his young self, or even his younger self. The true introduction of George Bailey is through prayers from other people.
I owe everything to George Bailey. Help him, dear Father.
And angels responding to these prayers. Meaning we already have an idea of where this story is going to go, and given that most families talk about this movie as if it starts on the 1 hour 38 minute mark, every new viewer is being asked an unspoken question. What's the thing that compels George to attempt this? And if he's seriously considering throwing his life off the bridge, where and when is that breaking point? I'll unpack this movie in deeper detail when it's the right season, but let's just say there is a single moment where it all snaps. But as for Joker, the reason I wanted to write this video, while there is that same assumed question being asked quietly, is there in practice a definitive answer? What event leads it to all falling apart? What point does it all break? When does the light in Arthur's eyes extinguish and Joker's eyes flare up? Does this specifically explain why he became Joker? That's the question. Let's answer it with a hypothetical. Suppose that every scene from Joker was isolated, cut from their context, now existing as 1 to 4 minute clips. Suppose that these scenes were distributed to a matching number of individuals, where each single person watches one single scene. After they watch the scene they're given, they'll be asked the question: does this explain why Arthur became Joker? How many of these hypothetical people do you think would respond with yes? In my opinion, all of them. All of them. Which scene is the breaking point? All of them. What specific event reveals the catastrophic turn for the worst? All of them. Every single scene answers the question. Now let me show you. Did Arthur become Joker because of this scene, where it's revealed he has these uncontrollable laughing fits, a counselor who comes across as disinterested, and a dream to become a stand-up comic? Yes. Or is it because he uses his psych journal as a joke diary? Or because his psychiatrist social worker doesn't seem to remember hearing of that dream? Or was it because Arthur was more comfortable in the mental hospital? Yes, yes, and yes. And that's just one scene. Did Arthur become Joker because he, get this, actually writes jokes? That would make sense. Perhaps it was because he tried to make this child laugh, but the mother wasn't having it?
Will you please stop bothering my kid?
Yeah, that would make sense too. Unless it was because his medical condition makes everybody uncomfortable? Or was it because this woman doesn't even have enough respect to even give back the card? Yes, yes, double yes. Was it because Arthur's commute is full of gloom and color-absent darkness? Yes. Was it because the mailbox was always checked but never had any outside concern for Arthur's household? Yes. Was it because the only happiness Arthur can grasp is watching Murray Franklin live? Perhaps not. But if he's unhealthily imagining himself in the show, taking the spotlight and being shown sympathy, understanding, and paternal validation, then yes. That's why he became Joker. He became Joker because when he tried to pursue his dream of stand-up comedy, he fails hard, but lives in his own mind so much that he doesn't notice it.
Smile.
He doesn't notice how bad it is until Murray Franklin himself goes out of his way to use footage of Arthur's set just for a few cheap laughs. Moments after he first visits his mother in the hospital after she had a stroke or became hysterical, as these detectives put it, for they were talking with Penny but were looking for Arthur. Hey, why were they looking for Arthur? Did Arthur become Joker because the city randomly stole his job just to randomly beat him down? Of course. Did he become Joker because his boss reprimands him for being a victim of this violence? Or did it happen after Arthur imagined himself killing his boss? Yes, why not both? These are all valid answers. Or did Arthur become Joker because his co-worker handed him a gun so as to protect him from the city? Well, yeah, that explains it. Because it's the same gun that falls out of his pants while dancing in a children's hospital. That explains it. Which got reported to his boss, who fires him from the phone. That explains it. Which leads him to the subway where those 3 obnoxious cheesecakes harass a woman, making Arthur laugh out of discomfort, which encourages the cheesecakes to gang up on him. That all explains it. And this scene isn't even over. Arthur was here because he was fired, and Arthur fires because he was here. In the same place where he was once before, but now armed. Arthur becomes Joker because the first shot was entirely justified, because these next 2 shots are arguably justified. But he also became Joker because these shots were unjustified. It's because of these shots that these men are asking to ask some questions. These shots put his mom in the hospital, which put him in the crosshairs of the law, which pushed him into the room where he further propelled the rage already burning within him. The cause becomes the effect, which becomes another cause. Every scene answers the question. Is the question answered when his own mother, the one obsessed over Thomas Wayne's unsent letters, doesn't even believe in Arthur's ability to be funny?
Don't you have to be funny to be a comedian?
Or is it when he learns the truth of his sonship to Thomas Wayne, only to later learn the real truth that he was adopted, and then confirming Wayne's story at Arkham with terrifying proof of his adoption and abuse to realize that every personal safety net in his life is either dead or a lie, to then later decide that pillowcasing lies is better than tolerating them, but to then see that Thomas left a loving note on this portrait of Penny, making even the irrefutable proof of his adoption and abuse called into question. The question is answered sevenfold. And of course, there is the following scene and the sequence thereafter, but probably don't need to convince you that these scenes all answer the question as well, given that he's finally in the garb and has finalized his goals. Every single scene answers the question. But is it possible that there's one scene stronger than the rest? Or are they all equally important? Keeping everything I've shown you in mind, is there a single scene that answers the question most aptly, most completely? Is there the one Joker scene that spoils the entire film and would leave you satisfied if it was your only scene to consider? Well, I think so. And I believe Arthur becomes Joker very, very early. Before we see a clown wig, before we hear a laugh, we hear the peppy sound of a radio news report, giving us a brief explanation of Gotham City's state of being. A garbage strike that's been going on for 18 days, already in what the hell...
Health Commissioner Edward O'Rourke is declaring a citywide state of emergency for the first time in decades.
It's already a serious situation.
It's something that affects almost everyone in the city, no matter who they are or where they live.
Although during this report, most viewers, in my understanding, are more focused on the visual of Arthur applying his makeup. Now, I had forgotten about this news report and mainly remembered this face. He tries to smile genuinely, but he can't. So he uses his fingers to pry his mouth up, and it hurts him. That is what truly answers the question. This moment is the moment when Arthur's light vanished from his eyes and the Joker's essence took its place. Because the truth of the matter is that Arthur was broken from the beginning. Gotham is a city where everyone is affected by the corruption and the apathy of everyone else. Nobody is clean, and nobody is getting out of this clean. Which brings me to my second and final question. Who is truly responsible for Arthur becoming Joker? Is it just Arthur? After all, no one forced him to cut down the third slice of cheesecake, no one forced him to tuck his mother in so permanently, and no one forced him to give Mr. Franklin a ratings boom. Though, if we're all being honest here, this is what we say when something bad happens under our watch. We shift the blame. It may in truth be the most human thing about us. Our lifelong goal of avoiding shame. Thus, I believe that Joker, that is the movie, answers the second question just as simply as the first. Everyone's to blame for Arthur becoming Joker. The state of the world, the kids on the street, the counselor, the mother, his own mother, the neighbor whose only positive interaction with Arthur was being negative about the building, the co-workers, save one, the boss, the owner of the dying music store. Bro, if I keep listing them all, I won't finish this by Halloween. You get it. They're all responsible. But seriously, that was my greatest takeaway from the film. That me, in some part am responsible for the evil that happens in the world. Whether it was because of something wrong I have done or something good that I didn't. Everyone will become corrupt in a world already corrupted. So instead of looking at those serial life enders and great autocrats as the true evils in our world, maybe it's time for us to look in the mirror, whether to look back on what we've done or to reflect on who we are and what needs to change. And with that hauntingly convicting send-off, I'd like to wish you all an excellent, belated, and happy Reformation Day.